Published March 27 in Scientific Reports, a new study led by an NYU School of Medicine pathologist reveals that layers of the body long thought to be dense, connective tissues below the skin's surface, lining the digestive tract, lungs, and urinary systems, and surrounding arteries, veins, and the fascia between muscles are instead interconnected, fluid-filled compartments. Unlike the iconic Nazca lines, most of which are only visible from overhead, the older Paracas glyphs were laid down on hillsides, making them visible to villages below. The two cultures also pursued different artistic subjects. Nazca lines most often consist of lines or polygons, but many of the new-found Paracas figures depict humans. Nurse sharks are thought to take advantage of dormant fish which would otherwise be too fast for the sharks to catch. Although their small mouths limit the size of prey items, the sharks have large throat cavities which are used as a sort of bellows valve. In this way, nurse sharks are able to suck in their prey. Nurse sharks are also known to graze algae and coral. Twitter, a social network, will reportedly join forces with Bloomberg, a media company, to produce a 24-hour video news service. Twitter has made strides in adding users in recent quarters, but not in boosting profits. Jack Dorsey, a co-founder who recently returned as CEO, introduced limited live video broadcasts at the site, which were seen by 4.5 million unique viewers in the first quarter of 2017. A video clip of a bloodied passenger being forcibly removed from a United Airlines flight to make room for airline staff turned into a PR disaster. People used social media to complain that United should be beating the competition, not customers. United's boss, Oscar Munoz, apologized eventually. Lawyers for the passenger, David Deo, filed a petition to seize evidence related to the incident. The World Health Organization said an experimental malaria vaccine will be tested on more than 750,000 children in Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi next year. The disease causes more than 400,000 deaths annually. How the vaccine is implemented will be key to its success. It must be administered 4 times, with the final dose 18 months after the third. China's biggest online search company, Baidu, said it would make its self-driving car technologies available to others. In a bid to advance autonomous vehicles and perhaps to become an industry standard in the same way that Google's Android operating system is for smartphones, Baidu's Apollo project will distribute technologies to developers and car makers, initially for use in restricted environments, as soon as July. Britain said it will introduce the world's first public register of the owners of foreign companies holding property in the country. The move comes in response to growing concern over tax evaders and money launderers' use of shell companies to hide their identities. Most overseas companies that own property in London are registered in tax havens, particularly the British Virgin Islands. A South Korean court ordered the arrest of Park Geun-hye, the former president, on charges of bribery and abuse of power. Ms. Park, who was removed from office 3 weeks ago, will be jailed while prosecutors seek an indictment for her alleged role in a corruption scandal. The court said that if Ms. Park was not taken into custody, she might destroy evidence. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index, which measures both American consumers' assessment of current conditions and their expectations, rose to its highest level since 2001. Updated figures from the Commerce Department confirmed earlier estimates that the economy grew by 1.6% year-on-year in 2016, the slowest rate for 5 years, though growth picked up to 1.9% in the final quarter. Astronomers discovered 7 planets, roughly Earth-sized, orbiting a dwarf star some 380 trillion kilometers from our own. That is 40 light-years away, fairly close and within range of planned big telescopes. Scientists therefore think it offers the best chance yet to discover evidence of life, or why it hasn't evolved, beyond the solar system. The Mexican government began a 90-day consultation on the North American Free Trade Agreement with the country's lawmakers and business community. The discussion is required before holding talks with America to review NAFTA's terms. Donald Trump wants to renegotiate the trade pact, of which Canada is also a member, to get better terms for America. Ford made a U-turn, scrapping plans for a $1.6 billion factory in Mexico to build compact cars, and diverting some of the investment to a plant near Detroit to produce electric vehicles. Ford stressed that this was a commercial decision. Donald Trump had criticized the proposed Mexican factory while campaigning on the theme of saving American jobs. Dwayne Johnson has thanked fans for their support after he opened up about his battle with depression. The 45-year-old discussed his mother's suicide attempt and a period he described as the worst time of his life in an interview with The Express. "Got tons of responses to this. Thank you," he wrote on Twitter on Monday. "We all go through the sludge and depression never discriminates." YouTube has banned videos that show people how to manufacture or modify guns and their accessories. It had already banned videos linked to the sale of guns and accessories. Many firearms enthusiasts noticed that some of their videos had been removed from the video sharing website and some had their channels suspended. Australian workplaces are increasingly suffering from depression, anxiety, and stress, according to a large study of mental health in corporate Australia. Mental illness appears to have increased by a third in the last decade. Depression is now the primary mental health disorder. When countries assess their annual carbon dioxide emissions, they count up their cars and power stations, but bushfires are not included, presumably because they are deemed to be events beyond human control. In Australia, Victoria alone sees several 100,000 hectares burn each year. In both 2004 and the present summer, the figure has been over 1 million hectares. After a century of making sausage, the Oberto family is selling their namesake business to a large Canadian food conglomerate. But the local management says Oberto's employees, manufacturing plant, and sponsored hydroplanes with the red, white and green livery will see few changes. Premium Brand Holdings, which is based in Richmond, BC, and owns dozens of food manufacturers and distributors, is set to buy substantially all of Oberto Brand's assets. The successor to the Hubble Space Telescope has been delayed yet again and will not now launch until approximately May 2020. The James Webb Space Telescope is also in danger of busting the cost cap put on the project by the U.S. Congress. Back in 2011, politicians on Capitol Hill said the observatory should not take more than $8 billion to build and $800 million to operate over 5 years in orbit. The exponential growth of the Internet was heralded, in the 1990s, as revolutionizing the production and dissemination of information. Some people saw the Internet as a means of democratizing access to knowledge. For people concerned with African development, it seemed to offer the possibility of leapfrogging over the technology gap that separates Africa from advanced industrialized countries. A miner in the state of Chiapas found a tiny tree frog that has been preserved in amber for 25 million years, a researcher said. If authenticated, the preserved frog would be the first of its kind found in Mexico, according to David Grimaldi, a biologist and curator at the American Museum of Natural History, who was not involved in the find. Scientists have determined that the atmosphere above the planet Uranus is full of a gas that makes the distant planet smell like rotten eggs. According to NASA, a global research team dissected infrared light from Uranus and found hydrogen sulfide in the planet's top clouds. Hydrogen sulfide is a colorless, flammable, extremely hazardous gas with a rotten egg smell, according to the Occupational Health and Safety Administration. It has been 200 years since the birth of Karl Marx, but the German philosopher's relevance has never been greater. The publication of Marx and Friedrich Engels' The Communist Manifesto in 1848 was not greeted with great fanfare or reception unbecoming what is now considered the most influential political pamphlet of all time. Ministers have rehearsed for the Queen's death for the first time with a secret exercise to prepare for 10 days of national mourning, it has emerged. The run-through, apparently known as Castle Dove, saw cabinet ministers and Whitehall officials discuss D+1, the day after the monarch's death. Japan's parliament tightened limits on overtime hours, responding to concerns about karoshi, or death by overwork, and seeking to improve productivity in a country where long hours are more accustomed than business necessity. Does it feel like everywhere you turn there's more food? Fast food joints like McDonald's and Taco Bell abound. And big box stores like Costco, Walmart, and Target sell mounds of groceries. Just the slightest pang of hunger and around the corner there's another restaurant or retailer enticing us to buy more food. This will just take a minute. We all know money can't buy happiness. But according to a recent study, there may be a loophole. A team of researchers finds that shelling out for services that save time can bring greater feelings of life satisfaction than, say, simply buying more stuff. The results appear in the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Researchers gathered 160 uncaffeinated adults, people who consumed less than 500 milligrams of caffeine a week. These decaf subjects looked at pictures of various objects, then took either a placebo or a pill containing 200 milligrams of caffeine. That's roughly the amount you'd get from 2 cups of coffee. Such an agreement would include recognition that the world must aim as soon as possible to hold global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, a long-term low-carbon future, 5-year updated action plans that recognize the developing climate reality, and aid to those countries that did little to cause climate change but are most at risk from it. Studying abroad is a very popular option for students who come from a wealthy family. Most people believe that overseas experience provides a deeper understanding of cultures and develops communication skills. While this may be true, not all of these new experiences are useful for finding a job. Employers tend to value interpersonal skills and industry knowledge more than cultural background.